Okay. Good morning, everybody. We've got quite a bit going on here this morning, so I call this Sawyer County Zoning Committee meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Buckles,
Here.
Mr. Schuman,
Here.
Ms. Cecil.
Here.
Mr. Mastery,
Here.
Mr. Ringheimer.
Here.
Ms. Wilson.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is voting for chair and vice chair, and I'll turn it over to the clerk, Lynn.
Okay, let the record show that this meeting has been publicly noticed to the news media as required by section 19.4 of the Wisconsin statute. I will now open the floor for nominations for the position of chair. If necessary, once the chair is elected, each meeting will conduct the election of the vice chair. A person receiving a majority vote of members entitled to a seat shall be declared elected. This vote shall take place by electronic voting equipment. If no majority is reached, balloting shall continue, including all nominees until majority is reached. At this time, I will open the floor for nominations for the position of chair. Do I hear any nominations?
Yes, Madam Clerk, I'll nominate Mr. Buckholz as chair.
Do we have any other nominations? Any other nominations? Last call for nominations. With one nomination on the floor for Mr. Ron Buckholz, I will call for a unanimous vote for candidate Ron Buckholz for the position of chair. All in favor?
Aye.
We're gonna use these.
Did you want to use these?
If we got them, we may as well use them.
Okay, Mr. Maestri, could you cast your vote?
Yes.
Oh, 1 second, I'm just opening it now. Okay. Ms. Wilson? And Reed are.
Oh, sorry. Got it?
We have a vote of 5-0, but of course, the alternate cannot vote on the position. So we have a chair, Mr. Ron Buckholz. Would you like to cast the election for the vice chair?
Lynn, would you pick the vice chair too, please?
Let me get out of this one. Okay, we have a chair, Ron Buckholz. We have nominations for the position of vice chair at this time.
I'll nominate Ms. Hessel.
Do we have any further nominations for the position of vice chair? Second call for nominations. Third, with a one nomination for Stacy Hessel, we will close the floor with it and ask for a unanimous vote for candidate Stacy Hessel, and the clickers are open for voting. Mr. Maestri?
Yes.
And we have 5-0 again, so it is a unanimous vote.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Lynn. Congratulations, Stacy.
Thanks, you too.
Okay, we're going down to number D, a statement of committee and hearing procedure, hearing notice. The full statement of the committee and hearing procedure document, including directions for the individuals wishing to speak at a public hearing to be conducted at this zoning committee meeting, are available in front of this room next to the agenda for today's meeting. The statement of committee and hearing procedure document is hereby incorporated into the record for this committee meeting. Any public hearing conducted at today's committee meeting has been published as a class 2 notice in accordance with chapter 985 of the Wisconsin statutes in the Sawyer County Record and the Sawyer County Gazette as posted. Okay, number E, approval of March 17th minutes.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Hessel and a second by Mr. Schuman to approve March 17th meeting minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carries to approve. Public comment, please note comment time is intended for the general public comments, not comments relating to a specific application before the committee. Each agenda item requiring a public hearing will have its public hearing conducted just prior to the application being considered by this committee. If you wish to speak on a specific agenda item, we encourage you to hold your comments at this time.
I have 2 sheets for public comments first. Linda Zomer.
Linda Zilmer, 902 Holly Hill Lane, Birchwood, Wisconsin, Edgewater property owner. I am excited to see the zoning committee reboot in process. I think it holds promise, especially as there are now 2 members that can add a town's perspective to that role, that balance between local town control as well as county zoning ordinances. And so one of the things earlier this morning, I emailed the department head and the zoning committee members with the findings of fact based on the state statutes authorizing county zoning as well as your own county zoning ordinance purposes. So at a future meeting, please take a look at considering updating findings of fact that actually do help develop decisions that are consistent with the ordinances and statutes. Also, please maybe schedule time to further look at the county's processes for not only permitting non-metallic mines, but also updating or doing the annual inspection process to include not only the conditional use permit, but also the operation plans and reclamation plans. And maybe also look at the process of these public comments, because over the last year, the public has not been able to comment on your new business items. And so with regard to that, I do hope the committee supports looking at the tourist rooming house situation, but expanding that to include tourist rooming house, resort campgrounds, and even like migrant labor camps. They all have similar and overlapping issues, and if you're going to have all the stakeholders together, address it at one time. And finally, regarding the ongoing proposed zoning ordinance amendment changes, I do not believe that it's ready to go forward to the towns, but if the committee feels differently, please drop the change that was added to this month's version that appears on the website, but was not in the April item, which is, I believe it's section 5.1, which is part of the shoreland zoning, which would allow multiple dwellings or principal structures on lots that are in the shoreland wetland protection zone. I do not think that is consistent with the your zoning ordinances, both general and shoreland, and it's something new and should not move forward. Thank you.
Next, I have Douglas Kurzweil.
Douglas Kurzweil, 11055W Arrow Road, Hayward, Wisconsin.
Mr. Kurtzwell, you got 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I trust every member of the committee has had a chance to carefully peruse the proposed text amendment that will be dealt with later. I've read through it a couple of times. There seems to be some stark conflicts, inconsistencies in the text. I've read through the 2 pages of supporting document or supporting letter, and there seems to be some errors, incomplete, out of context assertions, as well as some remarks that are total misrepresentations of the record. I've talked with a number of people about this process and these various, was it 6 or 7 different versions that have come before this committee over the last year. They find the flow of the wording to be confusing, and they don't know if it's just them or if it's intentional. And also a question that I've got a lot of people asking me is, over the course of the past year, how many hundreds or thousands of taxpayer dollars have been invested in this process? Each rewrite, I would expect, requires at least a couple of hours of legal counsel time, perhaps more. Each rewrite requires time of the members of this committee. Each rewrite takes up a lot of time of members of the community. So, again, the committee today is going to do what it's going to do. And, once it goes out to the towns, the chips will fall where they may. But, there's a lot of people wondering how much money has been spent on this so far. And I'm not sure if this is the appropriate committee to get to the bottom of that, or perhaps it should be the finance committee. There was an article in the paper a year or so ago about the hundreds of thousands of dollars annually the county was spending on legal advice, and it's a shame we don't, have employees who are more comfortable with the ordinance they're supposed to be enforcing, that they need to spend that, make that investment of taxpayer dollars. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
I don't have any additional sheets for public comment. Are those any other member audience wishing to give public comment not on a specific agenda item?
Okay, if not, let's move on.
Seeing none, hearing none online. This is a first rezone application. This is a public hearing in the town of Lenroot, rezone number 23-001, owner Fred Shear III, part of the southeast one quarter to the northeast one quarter, lot 3. Section 7, Township 41 North, Range 8 West, tax ID 16329. Property is zoned Forestry 1 and is 5.06 acres. Purpose of the request is to rezone from Forestry 1 to Residential Recreational 1 to allow portions of the lot to be merged to adjacent lots, cleaning up the lot lines and roads. No new lots or building sites are to be created. The surrounding lots are zoned Residential Recreational 1. As per my staff report, again, the only way that the above described property, this 5.06 of Forestry 1, could sell land to an adjacent parcel would be rezoning to Residential Recreational 1, in that within the Forestry 1 zone district, it would be a 5-acre minimum. Again, no additional lots are to be created. They're just moving property line boundaries. The town of Lenroot comprehensive plan shows this area as rural residential. Rural residential is defined by the town of Lenroot comprehensive plan, are areas where higher density development has occurred or is projected to occur. To accommodate the level of this development, 1.5 acre lot minimums are recommended. The proposed rezone and future survey map for the lot configuration would meet all those requirements and recommendations. Again, the majority of the surrounding area is RR1 and F1 with single family dwelling development. By action of the town board, motion was approved, signed unanimously. No additional comments, signed Carol Stone, town clerk. And there were 7 comment letters sent out to adjacent property owners, and none of those were returned. That's all.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
I need to recuse myself on this issue. My husband is employed by the area for cross-country ski maintenance of their trails, and is a personal friend of Fred's. So legal counsel has suggested that I remove myself from the room during this.
I was gonna ask legal counsel about that. So we'll have Mr. Righeimer be a voting member on this rezone.
We need a motion to go.
Okay, yep. All right, I need a motion to go into public hearing on rezone number 23-001.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Righeimer and a second by Ms. Hessel. We're going to public hearing on rezone number 23-001. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
All opposed? Motion carries. We are now in public hearing. The applicant here.
Good morning, board. I'm Michelle Smith. I'm Fred Shear's office manager. So everything that Mr. Kozlowski said is the information that Fred presented to me. So I'm just here to answer any additional questions, other than so the purpose of the rezoning is more like where the roads and the ski trails and stuff like that go. It just is more in line with how those properties will be divided based on that. But if there's any questions for me, please let me know.
Have any questions?
No.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. All right, does anybody out there want to speak in favor of this rezone? Is there anybody out there that wants to speak in opposition of this rezone?
I do have one public comment for informational purposes from Michelle Smith. Michael.
That was,
Oh.
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's fine.
I
Yeah,
wasn't sure which.
yeah, no, you're good.
Big star.
Okay. Anybody online, anything?
I don't see any hands raised online for that.
Okay, all right, if there's no more, I need a motion to come out of public hearing on rezone number 23-001.
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Righeimer and a second by Mr. Schuman to come out of public hearing on rezone number 23-001. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We are now on public hearing.
All right, this is the discussion action of the town of Len Route rezone number 23-001, owner Fred Shear III. Legal description is previously read into record. This request is to rezone 5.06 acres of forestry 1 to residential recreational 1.
Okay, committee, turn it over to you.
I'll make a motion to approve rezone 23-001,
Katie, you want to put your
I'll-
finding of facts in there?
finding of facts 1 through 9.
Okay,
I'll second that. And then in discussion, Jay, are there any staff report requirements or recommendations?
No, not for this rezone.
Okay,
Again, no additional lots would be created. In conversations with the applicant. Neighbor to the east and a neighbor to the west had come to Mr. Shear wanting additional land. And the only way he could sell off additional land was to rezone this. He would still keep a build site on this main lot for himself. With giving, 3/4 of an acre to the property owner to the east and 3/4 of an acre to the property owner to the west.
okay. We have a second or a motion by Ms. Hessel and a second by Mr. Schuman to approve the rezone number 23-001. Any more discussion? Okay, if not, roll call or vote. Pat?
Ms. Hessel,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
yes.
Mr. Buckles,
Yes.
Mr. Mastery,
yes,
Mr. Ringheimer.
Yes.
Okay,
Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on.
okay, I got one
Yep.
question.
Go ahead.
We should be using these on the
Oh, there's-
discussion.
We probably should. I haven't had the
Yeah.
training or implementation. I know at other committees, either Lynn or Mike is here to use it. I did not have the training to use those. I don't have the software program to do it.
Okay.
As chair moving forward to next meetings, if we want to use the clickers for votes, so we certainly can implement that.
Okay, as long as you haven't had training, I'm fine. I just thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, I like the idea, but I don't have,
Okay,
I wouldn't even know where to start.
that's fine.
Moving on, this is conditional use permit applications. This is the public hearing, the town of Round Lake conditional use permit number 23-005. Owner Michael Anderson and Laura Rodimus, agent Verizon Central LLC. Part of the southwestern quarter, the northwestern quarter, section 5, township 41 north, range 6 west, parcel 024-641-05-2301. Tax ID 24024. It is 34.89 total acres owned agricultural 1. Permit is desired for the construction of a 275-foot wireless communication tower with a 5-foot lightning rod. This will allow Verizon to improve customer experience. As part of the staff report, this 275 wireless communication tower is subject to section 17.4 parent B, parent 4, the Sawyer County zoning ordinance and the Sawyer County telecommunication ordinance in conjunction with Wisconsin state statutes. With the new changes of 66.0404 mobile power siting regulations, including the changes of 2017 and 2019. Counties are somewhat limited in local regulation as long as the applicant of a mobile service provider comply with the provisions and regulations specified in 66.0404. The Sawyer County telecommunication ordinance would not be compliant at this point to the state statutes, and the state statutes would need to be followed. The only element that the Sawyer County telecommunication ordinance is utilizing is that a conditional use permit is required for the telecommunication facility. As per the application that was submitted, I've deemed it to be complete. It contains the elements as specified in Wisconsin state statutes. Those here are then attached into my staff report and to be incorporated within the record. And I'll go through can you give me the conditional use permit folder? This committee now would need to review the application and determine whether or not it was to be approved for the conditional use permit. And that would be for the location of the telecommunication tower. As per the motion of the town board, was unanimously approved. Approved with the condition that a buffer of at least 4-foot high evergreens be planted along the perimeter of the area as per the Sawyer County telecommunication ordinance. That was signed Kathy McCoy, town clerk. And as part of my other staff report requirements for potential conditions, that a land use permit for the telecommunication tower be received pending the conditional use permit approval. That prior to issuing of the land use permit, the applicant or the owner of the telecommunication facilities shall be provided bond or irrevocable letter of credit or any type of other suitable financial assurances in the amount of $20,000. In that, if the facility was to fall in disrepair or disuse, that restoration could be performed on that site, and that it must follow all other county, state, and federal laws. That is all.
Okay. Thank you. All right. I need a motion to go into public hearing on CUP number 23-005, please.
So move,
I'll
Chairman.
second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Schuman, a second by Ms. Hessel to go into public hearing on CUP number 23-005. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We are now in public hearing on CUP number 23-005. Is the applicant here? You want to come up and talk to the committee? Either one is, or both is fine.
Good morning, I'm Laura Bredimus. We've been approached by Verizon Wireless to construct this tower in the town of Round Lake on our property. In the meantime, we've had many people stop by who lives down that Newmeyer Road area who thanked us that we would agree to possibly take this on because they have such poor service out there. I think it's an awesome area as far as being on the edge of the Chequamegon National Forest going east from there and not much out there. So I know service is very sketchy out there. So Verizon had approached us and we agreed that we could possibly partner with them and build a tower, let them build a tower if allowed. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I guess I have one.
Go ahead.
Either for the applicant or Jay. Jay, is this prime agricultural land? Would you consider it or?
It probably is and certainly was at one point. Over the last probably decade now, it hasn't been used for agricultural production. In fact, I feel like you've allowed vegetation now to reestablish itself in that field, if memory serves me correctly. Ultimately, you know, even if the tower was to be placed on that site, there could still be agricultural production that could occur out there. I mean, the actual tower area is relatively
So it doesn't
small.
destroy.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody online? Okay. Is anybody out there that would like to speak in favor of this CUP?
Barbara Hewitt.
Yep, go ahead.
Go ahead, ma'am. State your name and address, please.
I'm Barbara Hewitt. My address is 10435W Murphy Boulevard in the town of Spider Lake. I'm also the secretary member of the Spider Lake Volunteer Fire Department. I have been a member of the American Birkebeiner Ski Foundation, as well as the Chequamegon Area Mountain Bike Association. However, at this time, I'm not representing the ABSF or CAMBA. However, I have been a person who has been terribly involved in trying to resolve the emergency situations that we have in the town of Spider Lake because of all of the trails that go throughout that town that are used by tourists, that are used by our residents, and the emergency situation is dire. It is not just an afterthought, it is dire. We have lost people. I lost a very dear friend on the mountain bike trail a couple of years ago who died because he had an accident and people could not get to him in time. We have also lost an American Birkebeiner skier at the same situation. So I am here to condone the erection of this town, of this cell tower. It's not just a matter of adding to the coffers of Verizon. It is a matter of emergency situations in this town that has long gone, has been ignored by all of the communities around here for a very long time. So I'm very much in support of this cell tower. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next I have a Vance Hasmeyer. Hazymeyer?
State your name and address, sir, and you have 3 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Vance Hazemeyer. I'm a resident of Round Lake. My address is 8171 W Teal River Drive. And I'm here to speak on behalf of myself, and I'm also here to speak on behalf of myself as a nationally certified EMR and as a Wisconsin certified firefighter. First part, on the individual side, it's selfish, but we live in that area, and I've got 58 acres on the Teal River. I like to do outdoor activity. If I get 30 feet from my house, my phone doesn't work. The only reason my phone works now is I can tie to Wi-Fi. Selfishly, if I'm out in the woods, I'd like to have coverage, and I have zero coverage right now. The other issue I see is corridor Highway 77 and heavily traveled. We do it probably far too often because we're not real organized and we have to go to town a lot. So, you know, this sounds ridiculous, but I'd sure like my wife to be able to call me halfway back and say, get that gallon of milk, and I can't do it. So, I mean, that's minor, but people that have cell phones, they take it for granted. I want to speak a little bit from the emergency side, and I am not speaking for Spider Lake, the town of Spider Lake, or the Spider Lake Fire Department. And I'm not speaking for Round Lake or the fire department. I'm speaking to you as an individual that goes out based on my pager going off as an EMR and as a firefighter. And the fact that we have zero coverage on cell phones, at least I do, on that entire 77 corridor. There is going to come a time, folks, that there's going to be an accident on 77, and there's nobody that's going to be able to call unless they go to somebody's residence that has communication. And with today's technology, I want to see that change. I applaud the property owners. I applaud Verizon for putting the investment into this tower and giving us the coverage that we need. On EMR calls, sure, we've got two-way radios. I can go straight into dispatch with Sawyer County. That works 90% of the time. There's 10% of the time that radio doesn't work. Also, part of the protocol I've got as an EMR is I may have to call poison control. I may have to call a doctor at the Hayward Hospital. I can't do it. I cannot do it on my cell phone. And currently I have a Verizon coverage on my cell phone. I can't do it. So in closing, I just want to tell you what I see. I think we need it. I think it's been needed for a long time. The single most important tool for any emergency, whether it's fire, an auto accident, medical issues, the single most important tool is communication. And I've got the communication, but it doesn't work. In this tower, I'm in support of it 100%. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next I have is Lee Siebert.
Hello, I'm Lee Seibert, actually, and I live at 12389 and Newmeyer Road.
3 minutes, sir. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, and so in my past history, I've worked with Motorola for 17 years, and I put up many towers similar to this one. And looking through the specs and, you know, the CUP information, they've done a really nice job on putting it, laying out. They haven't overlooked or missed a thing. So I applaud the Verizon engineering group. I've met with them out in the field a few times. I kind of been consulting with Mike and Laura here, just wade through all the information. So I'm totally approved. I have no cell service where I live also. It wasn't for the Wi-Fi. And I'm a board supervisor for the town of Spider Lake, and I'm also the health and safety chair. And, you know, I get complaints constantly about the coverage and the safety aspect of that. So from people in the area, plus the firefighters and EMTs too. So I'm very much in favor of this. the lot was perfect. When I moved up here, there's a great spot to put a cell tower, so I was glad to see that this all went in. It's not really in the way of anybody, so it should be a really good site. Lays high, and height means miles, so that's what we needed out there. So,
Thanks.
all right, thanks.
I have one more, and we have 2 tower requests here on the conditional use permit, so I don't know if it was for this one or the next one, but a Michael Schmidt.
I can pass it.
Okay. It's just call for any others, that's all I have.
Is there anybody out there that wants to speak in favor? Mrs. Zomer, state your name and address. You got 3 minutes.
Linda Zilmer, 902 Holly Hill Lane, Birchwood, and property owner in Edgewater. And I'm very glad that these permits are coming to you today because I think the county, especially I've asked through the Economic Development and Extension Committee to look into this broadband coverage issue. If you heard today, it's big, not just for emergency services. It's our highway crews, it's our local town road crews. There are a lot of areas in Sawyer County that don't have cell coverage. And so, you know, taking a look at allowing, well, the state statutes changed as the zoning administrator explained, but prior to counties being restricted on what they could require, the counties could ask these telecommunication companies what their build out plans were for the county. They could, county could ask, well, will you allow free co-location on your towers for our highway or emergency services? There were other requests that would serve the whole community and the county that that are no longer available to you. So I can't ask you to do that, but I do hope this opens up the conversation, and it sounds like we have some people with experience to move forward to identify where is the need in the county and where could some of these towers go in the future. Because if the companies are willing to do this, it also provides an outlet for wireless broadband. And so rather than investing in in-ground cable, wireless co-location for broadband might be an option. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, anyone else out there like to speak in favor of this CUP? If not, anybody out there that wants to speak in opposition of this CUP?
I have a hand raised from Martin Hanson.
Go ahead, Mr. Hanson. You got 3 minutes.
You'll need, yep, there you go.
Thank you. Martin Hanson, 11078N Robin Lane, Hayward. I'm speaking in opposition. I understand the needs for improving communication. However, I don't think the applicant has performed due diligence in order to satisfy the requirements of the application. The applicant has failed to provide a propagation map showing the benefits of residents or traffic counts on Highway 77, so the net benefits cannot be assessed. The land use map shows mostly open and forested land, so it's very low density for the coverage area. The applicant shows a generator to be installed for the tower, yet has failed to inform the town how that generator will be fueled and what kind of fire protection will be provided for that generator and the fuel tank. The applicant has not provided the required sworn statement as required by state statutes that all co-location options on existing towers have been evaluated. Applicant has provided Exhibit C, and the meeting attachments is simply an unsigned letter. Applicant has stated that tower is not for 5G service, which is the current cell phone technology. That means additional infrastructure will be required in order to upgrade this tower in the future. And finally, the new tower will be visible from area lakes due to its proposed height. There are beacons proposed obviously at the top, but also intermediate beacons that will degrade the dark sky initiative that I believe many residents of the county enjoy for stargazing at night. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you, sir. All right, is there any more out there that wants to speak in opposition of this CUP? Angie? No, okay. All right, if there's no more, then I need a motion to come out of public hearing on CUP number 23-001 2023-005.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion by Ms. Wilson, and a second by Ms. Hessel to come out of public hearing on CUP number 23-005. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. We are now out of public hearing.
This is the discussion action in the town of Round Lake conditional use permit number 23-005. Owner Michael Anderson and Laura Bredimus.
Yeah.
For Verizon Central LLC and Mountain Ltd. Legal description is previously read into record. This, again, this request is for the construction of a 275-foot wireless telecommunication tower with a 5-foot lightning rod. This will allow Verizon to improve customer experience. As part of my staff report, I listed potential conditions that they would obtain a land use permit from Sawyer County for the placement of the telecommunication facility. That prior to issuing of the land use permit, that the applicant or the owner of the telecommunication tower shall provide a bond or irrevocable letter of credit or other suitable financial guarantees in the amount of $20,000. That all other county, state, and federal laws are followed. And then we also heard a condition from the town of Round Lake that a buffer of 4-foot high evergreens be planted along the perimeter of the area. Does the applicant agree to those conditions? Let the record reflect that the applicant is agreeable to those conditions. That is all.
Okay. All right.
Oh, and I do want to mention that there was, as part of the packet that was submitted by Verizon, in care of Mountain Ltd, there was a justification statement that was submitted. I think Mr. Hanson had alluded that it wasn't signed, but this came directly from Trisha Gray on behalf of Verizon Wireless as part of their search ring. That co-location was not an option within this area. So they are requesting for a new tower placement.
Okay, committee.
They also informed us at the town of Round Lake meeting that it would be powered by electricity. There wouldn't be any diesel generator out there for fuel, and Martin's concern about fire.
The generator is gonna be the.
Oh,
Yeah, there probably will be a backup. If the power was to go out and you still need to provide cell coverage, there would be a generator backup.
well, that information.
Chair, I make a motion to approve CUP 23-005. Based on the findings and facts 1 through 9 in the administrative report,
I'll second
Including
that.
my conditions.
including the administrator's conditions.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve CUP number 23-005. Any more discussion?
Yeah.
Mr. Schuman.
Jay, does that motion then include what the town around Lake wanted, that buffer,
Mhm.
or do we have to add that?
I would say, as per my reading it into the record with that condition and asking the applicant if they're agreeable to that condition and Ms. Hessel's motion that my conditions be placed in there, I would say yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I just got one comment. I know these cell towers are something that is very needy in Sawyer County. I mean, as much driving around as I do, being on the county board and town board chair, I have a hard time getting the signal. When you're way out in the sticks for having trouble, you're kind of up a creek without a paddle. So. All right. If there's any more discussion, Pat, let's do a roll call, please.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes,
Mr. Mastery,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Ms. Hessel,
Yes.
and Mr. Buckles.
Yes.
Motion carries. This is a public hearing in the town of Draper, conditional use permit number 23-006, owner Lynn Cole and Diane Wajaliski. Agent again, Verizon Central LLC, care owner of Mountain Ltd, part of the southeast one quarter, the northwest one quarter, section 24, township 39 north, range 3 west, parcel 006-339-242401, tax ID 6012. This is 39.93 total acres, zoned 431. permit is desired for the construction of a 275-foot wireless communication tower with 5-foot lightning rod. This will allow Verizon to improve its customer service. Again, as per my staff report, this is almost identical request in the same height and apparatuses to be used on the tower as the conditional use permit we just heard. I'll kind of just summarize some of my staff report, again, citing the Wisconsin State Chapter 66.0404 for mobile tower siting regulations. That counties are somewhat limited in what type of conditions can be placed on these telecommunication towers. I have reviewed this application and deemed it to be complete again. As per my staff report, a list of potential conditions that I have added is that a land use permit for the telecommunication facilities is required prior to construction. That prior to issuance of the land use permit, the applicant or owner of the telecommunication facility shall provide a bond or irrevocable letter of credit or other suitable financial guarantee to ensure removal of the facility if it falls into disuse or disrepair in the amount of $20,000, and that all other county, state, and federal laws are followed. As per action of the town board, the town of Draper did not have time to convene on this due to 2 unexpected resignations. They will be unable to move forward on the conditional use permit 23-006. They are trying to hold that for their May town board meetings. We've seen this in the past where towns weren't able to meet on these said cases. We've had legal counsel weigh in on this in the past. As a general rule of thumb and practice for zoning committee, I would also list another condition as part of my approval, that it be contingent upon town board approval. I'm not in the, I don't like seeing this committee table or postpone because the town board didn't have a chance to hear it for whatever reasons. Now, if they tabled it due to needing more information, that could be something different, but they just didn't have the time to meet on it. Where I think this committee should still move forward with the public hearing process and even potential discussion, action, and motion, and then add that other condition in that it would also be contingent upon town board approval. There was only one additional opinion letter sent out or general comment letter sent out, and no additional comments were received.
Okay,
That is all.
all right. So I need a motion to go into public hearing on CUP number 23-006.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a motion and a second by Ms. Hessel to go into public hearing on CUP number 23-006. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We are now in public hearing on CUP 23-006. Is the applicant here? Okay, ma'am, you'll step forward.
I do not believe they are here.
Okay,
And I do not believe there is representation from Verizon or Mountain LTD for this case.
okay. All right, did anybody out there want to speak in favor of this CUP? Not, is there anybody out there that wants to speak in opposition of this CUP?
Can I do a couple of words informational only?
Yes, quickly, Doug.
Douglas Kurzweil, 11055W, Arrow Road, Hayward, Wisconsin. This particular property is out about 3/4 of a mile, half a mile, 3/4 of a mile east of the Oxbow. It's within probably a half mile of the Sawyer Price County line. It's out in the boondocks. The people out there have less cell coverage than the folks in Spider Lake and Round Lake do. And I haven't heard any comments from anybody about this, but and I'm a technological nut. I don't know this stuff. I don't understand this stuff. But this one actually kind of makes sense.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else there want to speak in opposition? Nobody's got their hand up.
No, I do not see any hands raised for this one.
Okay, All right, need a motion to come out of public hearing on CUP number 23-006, please.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Wilson, a second by Ms. Hessel to come out of public hearing on CUP number 23-006. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We are now out of public hearing.
This is the discussion action in the town of Draper, conditional use permit number 23-006. Owner Lynn Pohl and Diane Majaliski, agent Verizon Central LLC and Mountain Ltd. Legal description is previously read into record. This permit is desired for the construction of a 275-foot wireless communication tower, including a 5-foot lightning rod. As part of the staff report and conditions that a land use permit for the telecommunication facilities be required. That prior to the issuance of the land use permit, the applicant or owner of the telecommunication facility shall include financial assurance in the amount of $20,000, that all other town, county, state, and federal laws are followed, including town approval of the conditional use permit case.
Okay, Betty, turn it over to you.
Did the comprehensive plan committee have a chance to,
I believe they did, and they approved it.
that's what I thought I
Yep.
read.
The town plan commission was able to hear this. They approved it. But the town plan commission makes a recommendation to the
Right,
town board, and the
right.
town board was unable to
Right.
make a quorum.
And that planning commission, Jay, was the town of Draper's?
Correct.
planning
Yes.
commission?
Uh-huh.
And have you heard anything from town of Draper, maybe where they would have objections to this?
I had heard from the clerk, and they are wanting to pass this. They actually asked if they could just submit their town plan commission recommendation as their town board's decision, and we said, no, that's not your town board, that's your town plan commission. So it sounds very likely that the town board will pass this. They just need to make a quorum and hold the meeting.
Okay, then I'll make that motion to approve. CUP 23-006. With J's 1 through 3 staff report. And finding of facts 1 through 9, also including that it be contingent on the town of Draper board approval.
Okay.
Motion.
Okay, we have motion by Mr. Schuman, second by Ms. Hessel to approve the CUP number 23-006 with Jay's recommendation and the town board approval. Any more discussion? Not? Roll call, Pat?
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Ms. Hessel,
Yes.
Mr. Buckles,
Yes.
Mr. Mastery,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
All in favor, moving on, this is a public hearing in the town of Lenroot, conditional use permit number 23-007. Owner Jeffrey and Cynthia Schmid, part of the southwestern quarter, the southeast one quarter, lot 1, CSM number 7534. Tax ID 39913 is 5.67 total acres, zoned residential recreational 1. Permit is desired for the assembly of a dairy wash control unit per section 17.2 parent B parent 7 for professional office and studios. No manufacturing will be done on site, assembly only. As per the staff reports and conversations with the owner, they are seeking a conditional use permit to assemble dairy wash controls on the requested property. This property is a vacant parcel immediately adjacent to the parcel that contains their primary dwelling. Currently, this use is being performed elsewhere in the city of Hayward, but they are wanting to relocate this professional office and studio to their home resident parcels. As part of this request, there would be no manufacturing done on site. Outside vendors would manufacture specific parts of the product and then ship them to this location. The property owners would then take several different pieces and assemble them into the final product and reship out to other destinations. This would be done by light tools such as general power tools and hand tools. UPS would then ship out the final product. As part of this request, the property owners would be constructing a new building as part of the use on this property. With any type of new non-habitable building, it will require that a deed restriction or restrictive covenants is also submitted between the lots containing the professional office and studio and the existing primary dwelling. This would then require that both properties are sold together. The reason that this is needed is because the CUP would be limited to the property owner. If the property owner sells, then the CUP is voided, and whatever structures may be placed out there would not be allowed as just accessory structures on a vacant land. Thus combining the lots with the deed restriction would be viewed as an accessory structure that's still combined back to the primary dwelling. The proposed accessory structure size has not been identified, but would need to meet all other requirements. The use of the building is what requires the CUP. As part of my staff report, that the CUP 23-007 would be limited to the property owner as described, that no fabrication or manufacturing of any products would be allowed, assembly only. That if a new building was to be constructed, it will require its own fire number and site address. Only one additional building is allowed for the requested use. If additional buildings are needed, it will require additional conditional use permits. That a land use permit is required for the construction of the new building and is to meet all required setbacks. That a deed restriction or restrictive covenants document is needed to combine the adjacent lot with the primary or habitable dwelling with the new proposed accessory structure. That all signage must meet the Sawyer County zoning requirements and that all other town, county, state, and federal laws are followed. By action of the town board, motion was unanimously approved. No additional comments. Signed, Carol Stone, town clerk. There are 4 general comment letters sent out to adjacent property owners, and none of those were returned. That is all.
Okay. All right, I need a motion to go into public hearing on CUP number 23-007. We have a motion by Ms. Hessel,
Second.
second by Ms. Wilson to go into public hearing on CUP number 23-007. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We are now in public hearing. Is the applicants here? Okay.
Cindy and Jeff Schmidt, 13141W Old Double O Road. Jay kind of spelled out everything that we're going for here, looking for a conditional use permit to assemble as one example of one of our products that we make.
Yeah, as far as the operations of it, when he was saying small, everything, the box is made down in Milltown, Wisconsin. Any machining is actually, done by Mike at Screw Machine for the parts that we have machined, and I just assemble it. So basically, you have your holes, cams, screws, and then we box it, send it out UPS, and we have a dealer network. It is not, what would you call it, retail. We aren't going to have anybody going in and out of there all the time.
Right. Retail sales.
As far as noise that came up, and again, we make less noise than probably a woodworking operation because it's all hand tools.
We've been in operation at the address on Highway E since 1950. And I don't think anybody even knows we're there. That's how quiet it is.
Go by that, do see it there on County Highway E and we ask what we do there. That's exactly, so, and that's, I don't know, I guess I'm here to answer any questions if you have any.
Good, Mr. Schuman.
Yeah, Jeff, do you have a lot of employees then that'll be
Yeah,
working
we're looking
there?
at it.
Yeah.
There's
That's what I
just
thought.
Cindy and I. It's just a really small operation. We have no employees now.
I had a question. How many of these do you produce in a month?
None?
Yeah.
Oh. I make them about 25 at a shot and that lasts about a month and a half. And then we have a few other boxes, different variations of the washing model. So, I mean, we probably sell 250, 300 units in a year is about it. And then a lot of it, our sales are parts, maintenance parts, small parts, selling a lot of out, they call us, or a timer or whatever, which is just, that's no assembly at all. It's just putting it in a box and getting it back up and running.
And then I wondered, traffic, how many times do trucks go in and out?
It'll be
in Old
UPS
W?
once a day.
Once a day?
Yeah, we set everything UPS.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing. Okay.
All right,
No, I guess you want to call for it, though. I don't see any hands right now. Really. Maybe call for it still.
all right. Is there anybody out there that wants to speak in favor of this CUP? If not, is there anybody out there that wants to speak in opposition of this CUP? Okay. If none, need a motion to come out of public hearing on CUP number 23-007.
So moved, Chairman.
We have a motion by Mr. Schumann, second by Ms. Hessel to come out of public hearing on CUP number 23-007. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We are now out of public hearing.
This is the discussion action, the town of Lenru conditional use permit number 23-007, owners Jeffrey and Cynthia Schmidt. Legal description is previously read into record. Again, this request would be subject to section 17.2, parent B, parent 7 for professional office and studio to allow for the assembly of these dairy wash control units with no additional manufacturing or fabrication to be done on site. As per the staff report and the conditions, that CUP 23-007 be limited to the property owner. That again, no fabrication or manufacturing would be allowed, assembly only. That if additional building was to be constructed, it will require its own fire number or site address. That only one additional building is allowed for the request. If additional buildings are needed, it will require additional conditional use permits. That a land use permit is required for the construction of the new building is to meet all compliant setbacks. That a deed restriction or restrictive covenants is needed to be combined with the adjacent parcel containing the primary dwelling. That all signage must meet the Sawyer County zoning ordinance signing requirements, and that all other town, county, state, and federal laws are followed. I just want to say that this was a very unique request, and I had conversations with legal counsel on this. In that, you know, one of the other conditional use permit requirements within the RR1 zone district is for, you know, a woodworking shop. And in conversations with the applicants, you know, one of the reasons why we would have conditional use permits for a woodworking shop is the noise levels associated with them. This operation is this professional office and studios would ultimately have less noise considerations for than a woodworking shop. So we ended up, you know, putting this type of specialized use because there's no way you could ever list all these types of uses within our zone district requirements. So this was a little bit of a unique one, and legal and I, you know, did have the discussion, and we're comfortable with, you know, having it as this professional office and studio.
Okay,
And Jay, the town board approved unanimous
They
again,
did.
right?
okay, committee.
So we can have discussion. I'd like to approve CUP 23-007.
Okay, we have a motion. to
Yeah,
approve
second.
And a second by Mr. Schumann to approve CUP number 23-007. Any more discussion? Mr. Maestri,
Yes,
you got any discussion on this?
nope, I'm good, thanks.
Okay, Ms. Hess.
My motion would include the conditions that Jay presented, as well as findings and facts 1 through 10.
Okay.
And I also want to just commend them for using local resources. I think that's great when we can have a business that doesn't outsource to China. So that's awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yep, I second that, sir.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Hessel and a second by Mr. Schumann to approve CUP number 23-007 with conditions.
Rebecca has her hand raised.
Rebecca, go ahead.
Hey, I just wanted to say that this is a perfect example of the flexibility of a conditional use permit. You know, as Jay said, you can't name every possible use, nor would you want to in your code. So you look at what the proposed use is and you try to fit it within the specifics of your code and you apply good analysis, which is exactly what Jay and everyone has done here. So I commend you for all of that. Good results. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any more discussion? If not, need roll call, please. Pat.
Ms. Hessel,
Yes.
Mr. Buckles,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Mastery,
Yep.
Mr. Schuman.
Yes.
Okay,
All in
approved.
favor? Moving on, this is the public hearing in the town of Hayward, conditional use permit number 23-008, owner Reginald and Kimberly Pontanilo. Part of the northwestern quarter of the southeastern quarter, lot 1, CSM number 8461. Tax ID 43868, it's 7.39 total acres, zoned forestry 1. Permit is desired for the accessory building 32 by 40, 20 feet in height. As subject to section 4.26 parent 1 of the Surrey County zoning ordinance to build an accessory structure on vacant land with automatic conditions to build a primary dwelling within 3 years. As part of the staff report, again, this is subject to section 4.26 parent 1. The construction of accessory buildings on vacant property may only be allowed by conditional use with town and zoning committee approval. Granting of the conditional use permit rule would require that within 3 years that a primary dwelling land use permit be applied for and that principal dwelling is built within those permit timeframes on that same parcel. Failure to build the principal dwelling will result in a citation or order for removal of the accessory structure. In conversations with the applicant, the CUP is being requested to first build this outdoor or outbuilding prior to constructing a cabin. The proposed accessory structure is to meet all county zoning setback requirements. The size of the proposed garage is to be 32 by 40 and approximately 20 feet in height. Again, per the staff report and conditions, land use permit for the accessory structure be taken out within 1 year, the date of the zoning committee's decision, and built within those permit timeframes. That a land use permit is required for the principal dwelling within a 3-year date of the zoning committee decision and built within those permit timeframes. Failure to apply or build will result in citations and potential order for removals. If the proposed accessory structure meet all other Surrey County zoning and conservation requirements and setbacks, and that the size of the proposed structure not to exceed 32 by 40. As motion by the town board, motion was unanimously approved. No. Hold on. By motion of the town board was still unanimously approved. No additional comments, sign, burn hand, Tom Clerk. 5 adjacent property owner letters were sent out. Our property comments were sent out. None of those were returned.
All right. Is that it, Jay? Yep, okay. All right, I need a motion to go into public hearing on CUP number 23-008, please.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Wilson, a second by Mr. Schuman to go into public hearing on CUP number 23-008. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carries. We are now in public hearing. Are the applicants here?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay. All right, is anybody out there want to speak in favor of this CUP? Is there anybody out there that wants to speak in opposition of the CUP? Got no letters, nothing, okay.
No,
right.
I'd had conversations with the applicants.
Okay.
I don't know why they're at least not present on via Zoom, but I mean, things come up, so.
So how do we,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, how do we know that it's gonna meet that, it would not create runoff, drainage, flooding? Usually you provide a topo map or something with elevation?
Yeah, it's relatively flat through that area. They chose a location on a flat spot here. I'm actually not too far away from here and also have no objections with that for whatever it's worth.
So there's no wetland, no.
There are a couple isolated wetland pockets throughout this entire property, but where they're proposing to build, no, the wetlands are further down here towards the east and kind of northeast corners of the property. They're up on the kind of higher spot. They own both of these lots and they're looking at placing it. There's a group of pines. I don't know if you can see on this one. There's a group of pines right here. They're looking at proposing a driveway kind of through the group of pines and then, placing the accessory structure here with the potential future cabin off on this side.
Okay.
All right, if there's nobody, no opposition, anybody want to speak in opposition? Okay, if not, I need a motion to come out of public hearing on CUP number 23-008, please.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Hessel. I'll second that motion to come out of public hearing on CUP number 23-008. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. We are now out of public hearing.
This is the discussion action in the town of Hayward, conditional use permit number 23-008. Owner Reginald and Kimberly Pantanillo. Legal description is previously read into record. Again, this request is for placement of an accessory structure on vacant land, subject to the automatic conditions as listed within my staff report. Again, that would be that the main one, to the takeaway point of the automatic conditions, is that the principal structure land use permit is applied for within 3 years and then built within that permit time frame, which is 18 months. And then failure to build the primary dwelling would be for citations and potential order for removal of just that accessory structure, and that the size of the building not to exceed 32 by 40.
Okay.
Jay, I had a question. Do they propose to have any living quarters within that garage?
No. No, garage only to store materials. Currently, they're using it for camping and wanted additional storage, and they do plan on building within that permit timeframe.
And do you have like a tickler file that in 3 years you investigate that?
Yep. So we carved out this portion of the ordinance roughly 4 years ago.
Right.
So we have had several that we've gone back on now to, make sure that they are getting their primary dwelling land use permits and built within that permit timeframe. And so far, we've not had issues with any of those. Looking forward in the calendar, I think next month I have 3 of them that were approved 3 years ago to go check.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Jay, and the applicants stated they could follow your 1 through 4.
Yeah, in conversations with the applicant at the office, they had no issues with this.
Okay,
hey, committee. Turn it over to you.
all right. Well, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion then to approve CUP 23-008 with the conditions for approval that Jay mentioned in his staff report and findings of fact for approval 1 through 9.
Okay,
I'll second that.
we have a motion by Mr. Truman and a second by Ms. Wilson to approve CUP number 23-008. Any more discussion? Okay, not roll call, Pat?
Mr. Buckles,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Mastery,
yes,
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Ms. Hessel.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Moving on, this is the public hearing in the town of Radisson, conditional use permit number 23-009, owner Brandon and Natalie Heath, agent Nick Pettit. This is located in the northeast one quarter, the southwest one quarter. Section 12, Township 38 North, Range 7 West, parcel 0227381233101, tax ID 22306, 40 total acres, zone forestry 1. Permit is desired for the location and operation of a non-metallic non-metallic mining site, including rock crusher and asphalt plant. The actual mine site is to be limited to 5 acres within the northwest corner of the 40-acre parcel. This is subject to Sawyer County zoning ordinance section 17.8 parent B parent 8. As part of my staff report, again, this permit is desired for the location operation of a non-metallic mining site, including rock crusher and asphalt plant. The property is 40 total acres with an actual mine site identified as 5.02 acres in the northwest corner of the property. The surrounding area is additional forestry land and agricultural land, with the nearest resident approximately 1,500 feet away. As per conditions of approval, the reclamation plan and financial assurance would also be required in the amount of $7,500 or $1,500 per acre. The applicant must provide payment of assurance prior to any excavation. The specified hours of operation are to be 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, and intermittent operation during the weekend as projects demand between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. no holidays. The crushing hours and asphalt plant operation are to occur during the specified hours of operation, not to exceed 21 days per calendar year. Basically, the crushing would have to fall in line with the 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, as well as the 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, excluding holidays. As per the conditions listed in my staff report, they must obtain approval or conditional approval of the reclamation plan, which we'll hear next. That the hours of the normal operation be 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, excluding holidays. That crushing hour and asphalt plant hours are to be within that normal operation hours and not to exceed 21 days per calendar year. That a fire number or site address for that property be obtained. They need to maintain compliance with Department of Natural Resources, Chapter 30, and that comply with all other federal, state, and local regulations, including approval of the reclamation plan. As per action of the town board, motion was unanimously approved. Phil Quaid, chairman, Ron Kinsley, supervisor. No additional comments. Signed Cheryl Gerber, town clerk. There were 5 additional comment letters sent out to adjacent property owners. None were returned.
Okay. All right, we need a motion to go into a public hearing on CUP number 23-009, please. We have motion by Ms. Hessel,
Second,
a second by Ms. Wilson to go in public hearing on CUP number 23-009. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Carried. We are now in public hearing. Brandon, are you here? Yes, sir. I thought you were. Morning. Morning.
My name is Nick Pettit. I'm the agent on behalf of Brandon Heath and Jeremy Pettit. We were looking to get a gravel pit opened up east of Radisson off of Highway 70. We've gone through all our permitting process. We feel everything's been submitted. And we are looking for approval from Sawyer County. So we're open to any questions that you may have.
Is this a, guys, is this a renewal or would this go brand new? Open pit?
Yep.
And it's 5 acres of what, a 40-acre piece or something?
40-acre parcel, yeah, we'll have 5 acres in the northwest quadrant of the property.
Okay.
I had a question.
Yeah.
It says that the total depth of the excavation will not exceed 30 feet.
Yeah, so the way this property is set up, when you come into the property on the southeast corner, that is where the gravel pit will start. From there, the property, kind of a big hill there, so we will not be excavating below that initial ground level. So basically taking a hill and taking the material out of the hill. So we're not looking to dig a pond or anything like that.
Because it was confusing. It said that the water table was 20 feet below the land surface. And you were going to go 30 feet.
Yeah, so 30 feet would be from the highest point of that hill. So I'm sorry.
Okay, that makes better sense.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
You also have any more questions?
Yes, I got one more. Yeah, so how close is this residence to the area you picked? I mean, do you take that into account?
Yeah, we did. So the north of the property, is owned by. Timber company. Okay, and north, west. The landowners, there's one landowner to the east. I believe I mapped that out. It was like 1,500 feet away. So
Yeah.
ideally a great spot for a gravel pit because you're not surrounded by homeowners.
Right.
That's about 1,500 feet in both directions from that 5-acre parcel or that 5-acre portion of this 40 acres. It's about 1,500 feet to this residence and it's about 1,500 feet to this residence. And then I believe Brandon or the Heaths occupied this property.
Yep.
So the actual access site into this property will be what, 100 feet, 100 yards away from your current driveway?
It'll be, so we actually, that's the current driveway, the neighboring piece, we actually have the 40 next to that also.
Okay,
So that's right there is our home.
Okay.
At that point, and then there's a neighboring piece that had an old homestead, so there's actually already a fire number and everything established there.
perfect.
The old home site there, it's an actual farm site, it's knocked down, so. It'll just be the driveway that's already existing on the state highway. Will be utilizing.
I got that fire number if you guys wanted that.
Looks like 9934.
And there's no, you received no opposition letters, Jay?
No, ultimately those, the 1,500, or I'm sorry, the property to the west that was 1,500 feet away wouldn't have received that additional comment letter in that they're outside of that 300-foot zone. But the one to the kind of southeast would have received one and they didn't submit any additional comments.
So it's not common for people to reside near it, like the owner. So you're actually having somebody on hand to regulate the time and everything. So that, is that common or unusual?
Split. Generally you don't see a lot of gravel pits where there was an existing home site and it's the same owner. It's not uncommon. And generally, if you have that, I mean, the homeowner's wanting that gravel out of there because ultimately, they got the pit in their backyard. For Mr. Heath's kind of situation here, I mean, this is still going to be quite a ways away from where they're residing. So I don't think they're going to really hear any of that noise way up back in the woods there. And that's the other thing. I mean, the buffering of woods around there is going to be maintained.
No, that's what I was thinking. It would be a benefit to have the homeowner be the business owner, have the property all in one, so.
I believe the traffic created from Highway 70 is going to be as loud as what you could hear from our operations on the property.
I know where you guys are talking about.
Yeah, I mean, as the crow flies, Radisson's a mile and a half, you said, back to the west, southwest?
Okay.
No further questions.
Further questions?
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. This guy wants to speak information from the DNR.
Okay, yeah, I guess you can call him up. Other people wishing to speak in favor, I have a Paul Segan.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Paul Segan with the DNR Forest Health Program based here in Hayward. I'm going to speak today for information purposes only, and what I'm going to talk about is a recommendation. It is not necessarily a requirement. Oak wilt disease is here in Sawyer County. It's been here for about 8 years now. It's the most serious disease of oak trees that we have in the Upper Great Lakes. The DNR has standard guidance to avoid the introduction and spread of oak wilt by avoiding harvesting, pruning, or wounding oaks during the period of April through July every year. There are a number, and this applies to when there's going to be harvesting or vegetation alterations. There's a number of sensible precautions that can be used to mitigate the potential for oak wilt introduction while still doing some of those activities during that critical risk period. Those may include applying a pruning sealant or a latex-based paint to any fresh cut or wounded surfaces of oaks that occur during April through July, or excavating stumps along the margin of a forest so that if trees end up getting infected, stumps get infected, there's a breakup between the infection and the outer forest. So there's a couple of ideas here on how this type of project could proceed and still really mitigate the risk of oak wilt, even though this would be under this type of land, probably an optional adherence. But I just want to speak about that as an option. And I was going to get Mr. Kozlowski some information on this. I didn't have time this week, but maybe I'll follow up with an email with laying out a couple of those options that someone could optionally take on. So that's what I've got.
So, Paul, can I ask a question? If they did that buffer, how wide would that buffer have to be?
About 80 feet. You'd want to excavate about 80 feet of stumps within about 2
All the way
weeks.
around?
Yeah, or around the edge of the forest that's being cut, if it's being cut April through July. Principle here is that if oak wilt disease gets into those stumps up against the forest that's going to be retained, all that forest on the edge, it has a high composition of oak, 20 basal, 20% or more, it's under threat of the disease. The disease can spread in and start to kill trees on that retained forest. So 80, yep.
Well, go ahead. Would you make a recommendation that for a condition of removal of trees for the location and operation of this mine site, that they would, I guess, comply with your recommendations for the tree removal?
Taking a very neutral position on this, it would be, that's what we recommend in doing private forestry like this. If the land is not under a forest tax law program like MFL or forest crop law or state or county lands, it would be a discretionary decision. We would recommend that they do that as a best practice. We do not require it.
Okay.
Paul, do you have evidence of forests being decimated by oak wilt because they went in and started cutting? I think you mentioned in Spider Lake, there was and another area.
There are a number of stands within Sawyer County and for sure Washburn County that have had quite a bit of oak wilt introduction as a result of spring and summer harvesting during the April through July timeframe. But when we look at counties like down in Burnett County and Polk County, where we have sandier topography, oak wilt has spread across the landscape like fire. It's much more devastating here. Our soils are such that it doesn't spread quite as quickly. But yes, there have been stands with heavy impacts from oak wilt. So we want to try to educate people and help them understand some of those simple and insensible precautions.
Okay, excuse me, your time is up, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, can I just comment on that? Sure. Oh, great point.
Please step to the,
Step to the mic if you're gonna comment.
so I can pick you up on the Zoom.
Yeah, so great point. I'm very aware of this oak wilt. I do a lot of work throughout the state, a lot of DOT projects, so I'm familiar with this. This particular parcel, no oak trees, basswood, ash, maple, strictly in that area. But okay, great point.
Yep.
So
Your,
I don't feel we have any issues in this parcel with any type of oak wilt.
your operation plan said maple, birch, oak.
That would be a mistake on my part. The property owner and Underground Excavating who does logging assured me that there is no oak. And we'd be more than willing to move one out there ahead of any stump removal, just to look at it. So,
Yeah. I'd be happy to come out.
yeah, so when the meeting's done, why don't I get your name and number and you weren't happy to meet you.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right,
Good point.
anybody else out there wanna speak in favor of this CUP?
I have Linda Zilmer for informational purposes only.
3 minutes, Linda.
Zilmer 902 Holly Hill Lane, Birchwood, Wisconsin, Edgewater property owner. And at the general public comment at the beginning of this meeting, with my comments about the reboot of the zoning committee, I asked if you would please consider taking another look at your policy and practices with regard to non-metallic mining. And one thing I noticed, and it's becoming more apparent, is in previous cases, people have spoken to some deficiencies, maybe in operation plans or other things. So in this case, it's a new CUP, so there's a conditional use permit. There should be an operations permit, and then also the reclamation plan. And I do not think that what Jay's got up there really meets the definition of a complete operation plan. And especially with this undetermined matter of whether there is oak there or not, things like an operation plan could also include that, you know, from the months of April through whenever that there is no disturbance of vegetation. So being that there's unsettled matters, that possibly more work needs to be done on the what you're deciding on, would it hurt to postpone this a month to determine the full conditions you want to put on this? And another concern I have is that this seems to be noticed as only 5 acres. Yet in reading, I think the staff report, this could be expanded in the future. So it's not, I don't think, just 5 acres. The property owner owns adjacent parcels, so maybe also determine what the future plans are. So with a number of unknowns, I would ask that possibly you consider postponing your final decision and complete conditions until next month. Thank you.
We discussed this. I mean, there is a plan of operation included within the staff report. So I don't know where that information is coming from. The request we have is for the location and operation of this new non-metallic mining operation. You know, if this CUP is, you know, approved or conditionally approved, we would then hear another case for the reclamation aspects. Current request is for a 5-acre mine site as part of this 40-acre property. If the applicant within, the 5-year renewal timeframe wants to amend the CUP for additional mining activities, we can certainly look at that. It will require an update to the reclamation plan. And we'll almost hear this as, kind of a new CUP, and that, the request is going outside of their initial boundaries, but that is not uncommon. We hear that quite often with the additional construction and activities that we are seeing in this county. There's definitely a need for additional gravel.
Okay. Anyone come up, state your name, got 3 minutes?
Good morning, Patrick Delaney, 10601 Nelson Road, out of Spiderland. I have a question, information only, wondering if you could speak to the asphalt. Did I think I saw they're asking for an asphalt plant approval?
Yeah, in conversations with Nick Pettit, they wanted to keep that in case there was to be any future highway development, that DOT would reach out to them, being a near pit owner of Highway 70. We see this quite often where they want to include that in case they do get a large contract to bring an asphalt plant in there for, road construction projects, that they have the ability to do so. But I don't think there'll be an active yearly asphalt plant, as well as part of the conditions as described in the staff report, that asphalt plant can only be in operation for 21 days per calendar year.
Okay, thank you. The question is, any neighbors, we talked about 1,500 feet, we talked about residences and homes, and that's great, thank you. What do you generally use as a measuring stick for asphalt plants as far as the impact? You've all heard, particulates, that end up on people's decks and all that kind of stuff. What's the distance for that?
As per the ordinance right now, listed within the Sawyer County zoning ordinance, it would be 1,000 feet from a residence for an asphalt plant or for a crusher. Now, if that's something that we want to amend via an ordinance amendment process, or we can certainly look into that. I'd also have to kind of confirm with legal as well as other state statutes and DNR permitting if we can make a larger setback distance, whether it be for asphalt plants or whether it be for the crushers. But as of right now, how the county ordinances would read, it would be 1,000-foot setback from where that plant is located to where the residence is located.
And that's crushers and asphalt.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Correct, yeah, and I should reiterate, as Pat just mentioned to me, unless the owner is the operator, then they can have it closer.
Okay, anyone else out there want to speak in favor? Anyone else out there want to speak in opposition?
Seeing no.
All right, need a motion to come out of public hearing on CUP number 23-009.
So moved, Chair.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Schuman, second by Ms. Hessel to come out of public hearing on CUP number 23-009. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. We are now out of public hearing.
This is the discussion action in the town of Radisson, conditional use permit number 23-009, owner Brandon and Natalie Heath, agent Nick Pettit. Legal description is previously read into record. The permit is desired for the location operation of a non-metallic mining site, including rock crusher and asphalt plant. The actual mine site to be limited to the 5 acres of this 40-acre parcel. We heard a little bit from Paul at the DNR about oak wilt. I had not mentioned that as any part of my conditions. We then heard from the operator that there isn't oak present at that site, and it looked like they had exchanged numbers. I don't know if you want to talk about adding that as a potential condition or allowing the property owner and the DNR to abide by whatever recommendations that the DNR may have, but we probably should get some of that language out with any type of potential approval process.
Agree. Okay, committee, it's up to you.
So we can go into discussion. I'd make a motion to approve CUP 23-009.
Okay, we have a motion. I'll second that motion to go for or 23009, excuse me. Any more discussion?
Perhaps there could be a.
Yeah.
Perhaps there could be a condition to discuss with the DNR, some of the options available to mitigate Oakwood introduction.
Cecil, you don't put that in motion.
Wouldn't that fall under number 5 of the conditional use? Of the condition of approval?
I guess it's not necessarily a regulation, though. It would be. As a recommendation, so chapter 30 is for stormwater. Number 6 is comply with all other state, federal, local regulations.
I'm not
It's not
opposed to it.
necessarily, yeah, it's not necessarily a regulation. It's at this point a recommendation from the DNR. And I'll leave that up to the motion maker if they want to include that.
So I would amend my motion to add that. I just feel like it has to be the responsibility of both parties then. I mean, for sure, because we've not had that presented before in any of our other conversations. So Paul's doing his due diligence for, we've never had that as part of our conditions. Because this is new. So it's great that they would communicate. I don't know if we need to actually put that in our motion. Because it's never been presented before. We've never put that limitation on others.
I brought that up because we just had a presentation at the Town of Round Lake on Oak Wilt. And Paul was very specific in his time frame of April 15th to July 15th. And when I read this, that they were going to start cutting May 1st, I was concerned. And so I contacted Paul to present that information to the board.
Okay.
Yeah, and I could support this, if we added that recommendation, the DNR recommendation, that if there's any oak to be cut, that they wait, or get recommendation from DNR when to do it. And
Or to leave
and
that buffer.
leave that buffer, and that those two should communicate and follow the DNR recommendations, if the owners are okay with them.
I'm fine with leaving them on site. If you were gonna walk through there, you'll see there's no oak trees and. it'll be none of it.
Well, it's up to Ms. Hessel to put that in her motion.
Sure.
Or you could vote on the motion and make a new motion, but yeah.
I'll just amend my motion to include that the DNR and the landowner work together to make sure that that's worked out.
Okay, we have that motion.
Yep.
We have a second.
I'll second it.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the floor to approve. Any more discussion?
Just, does this, Jay, have to be contingent that we approve the reclamation plan?
Yes.
Isn't that in there?
Yes.
It's under the same number.
It does. So your approval as part of the conditions that you're approving is to obtain approval of the reclamation plan. So
Okay.
you don't have to reiterate again, because it's already a condition where if all of a sudden we go into the reclamation plan, the reclamation plan is denied,
Right.
they aren't meeting the conditions of this one. So,
Thank you.
okay.
And my findings and facts are 1 through 9.
Okay, thank you. All right, any more
All right.
discussion?
No, sir.
If not, roll call back.
Mr. Mastery,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Buckles.
Yes.
Ms. Hessel,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Approved.
Want to take a 5?
Yeah, let's take a 5-minute break, please.
Haven't put it in yet.
All right.
That was my next thing.
So,
It might not be started to take that screen
Yeah.
and say, okay, what do we do here? Ready?
Yeah. My,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
So-
let's call this zoning committee meeting back to order. All right.
All right, we are on to the
Sir.
public hearing in the town of Radisson for the reclamation plan for the conditional use permit number 23-009. Owner Brandon and Natalie Heath, agent Nick Pettit. This is in the northeast 1/4, the southwest 1/4 of section 12, township 38 north, range 7 west. Parcel 022-738-123101. There's 40 total acres zoned forestry 1. Permit is desired for Sawyer County NR 135 reclamation issuance for the location and operation of a non-metallic mineral operation, open pit, limited to the 5 acres of the actual mine site. As per the staff report, Again, the application or the applicant is requesting to open a new non-metallic mining operation on the property that we previously read into record. Per the reclamation plan, the area is showing 5 acres of disturbance for mining. If expansion was to occur, a new updated reclamation plan would be needed with which requires additional approval. Per the plan, the pit depth is not to exceed 30 feet. Approximately 5,000 to 10,000 cubic yards of gravel are to be excavated from the site annually for the NR 135 requirements before approval can be granted for the conditional use operation process. The regulatory authority, being the county, needs to approve the applicant's reclamation plan. The Sawyer County Zoning Conservation Department has reviewed the reclamation summary and concludes the plan is consistent with the standards specified in NR 135 with post-mining activities described as a wildlife food plot with mixed forest regeneration. Sawyer County Zoning Committee, being the regulatory authority, may now approve, conditionally approve, or deny the reclamation plan. If the regulatory authority approves the reclamation plan subject to the general compliance of NR 135, the approval may not include conditions that are not related to the reclamation plan. Other conditions may be added during the public hearing process, which we just heard for the location operation. One required condition of the approved reclamation plan is that the new mine obtain financial assurance pursuant to NR 135.40. If the regulatory authority denies the reclamation plan, it must include within the findings of fact one of the following. That the applicant, after being given opportunity to make corrections, failed to provide the adequate permit application, reclamation plan, financial assurance, or other submitted requirements of NR 135. That the proposed non-metallic mining site cannot be reclaimed in compliance with the reclamation standards listed within NR 135 or subchapters of 1 of the Wisconsin State Statutes 295, or that the applicant or its agent, principal, or predecessors has during the course of the non-metallic mining in Wisconsin within 10 years of the permit application or modify the request being considered, shown a pattern of serious violations of the chapter or federal, state, or local environmental laws. Denial must be in writing for these reasons stated, and the regulatory authority's decision to deny the application must be reviewed also under the subject requirements of NR 135. Again, per the motion of the town board, they approved both of these requests, be it the location operation and the reclamation plan, and the reclamation plan summary and information was provided as part of the staff report.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, I need a motion to go into public hearing on the reclamation plan for 23-009.
Motion, or Miss Wilson, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Miss Wilson and a second by Mr. Schuman to go into public hearing on our reclamation plan number 23-009. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We are now in public hearing. Nick, you're up.
Well, as before, we feel we've turned in everything that we need to the county. And we are here for questions. Well, if you have a question, feel free. I have none.
And I did have additional conversations with DNR officials for the actual mine site and reclamation. One of their concerns was the location proximity to a creek that kind of bisects this 40-acre parcel. After giving them additional information that the actual mine site is to be in the northwest corner and be at the 5 acres, the actual mine site is going to approximately be 300 feet away from the creek. At that point, they had no additional requirements that would require additional stormwater management. We heard from the applicant as well that for the excavation, it's kind of into a hillside. So where they're starting their cut wouldn't be going any deeper. So for the aspects of either groundwater contamination or actually getting into the groundwater is not a concern. If they were to get into the groundwater table, there are other mitigation factors that can be made. And that would require a chapter 30 permit. That'd basically be the construction of a pond.
Right.
So be careful with your cut lines and not getting into the groundwater table because you don't really want to go through those requirements of chapter 30.
So we will take some additional measures. Outside of that project, we're gonna put up silt fence. Anything that's disturbed. Outside of where we're actually gonna process material that'll be seeded, there'll be vegetation there. I mean, I dealt with this a lot. Best management practices, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and their final reclamation does include for the seeding rates is listed within the plan. And the ultimate use, again, whenever this mine is to be, reclaimed is for, wildlife food plot, which is very typical of the mine sites that we see within our area.
Okay, any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, anybody out there want to speak in favor of this CUP reclamation plan? Anybody out there want to speak in opposition of this reclamation plan? Okay, all right, need a motion to come out of public hearing on the reclamation plan number 23-009, please.
So
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Hessel and a second by Mr. Schuman to come out of public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We are now out of public hearing.
This is the discussion action of the town of Radisson for the reclamation plan for conditional use permit number 23-009, legal description and information previously read into record.
Okay, committee. Turn it over to you.
Chair,
Yes,
I make a motion to approve the reclamation plan for CUP 23-009 based on the information presented with the CUP.
okay. We have a motion. I'll second that motion. Any more discussion? Okay, not roll call back.
Mr. Mastery,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yeah,
Mr. Buckholz.
Yes.
Ms. Hessel,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Okay, approved.
All in favor, moving on to new business. Let me get some stuff over here. Back to everyone's favorite topic. Multi-dwelling developments. Last month, we approved this to move to the town for their review. And during my due diligence, and it was actually Supervisor Wilson that had brought it to my attention. Within the shoreland zoning ordinance of section 5.1. It states that only one principal dwelling habitable structure is allowed per legal lot. Now, because of some of these changes that we are making, I needed to add the additional language, and let me just get to it here. So it's up on the screen.
Okay.
I needed to add the additional language that unless authorized by a conditional use permit, because ultimately, in order to apply for any of the multi-dwelling development language that we talked about, it requires that level of conditional use permit approval as listed per the zone districts. Now, if within the shoreline zone district, it says only one principal dwelling habitable structure is allowed, that has contradictions with what we're proposing in the multi-dwelling. So I needed to add the addition of unless authorized by conditional use permit, and that in conversations with legal did merit enough of a change that we needed to bring it back to this committee in order for it to again move forward to the towns. I'd also like to make one additional correction to this language before sending it out to towns, and that's specifically for the requirements of the 2-family dwelling units. It would be as per R1, RR1, and RR2. It says the 1 and 2 family, which we made a definition for 2-family dwellings provided. If a dwelling is 2-family, the lot must be at least double the minimum lot size required of section 18.2. That should also read as section 18.3. So not only section 18.2, but and 18.3. I would like to make that addition with any potential approval by this committee to send that out to towns for their review. I've also included within this packet the summary letter that I will be submitting to the towns. And it's actually going to go out today. I'm going to get this out to the towns today, if approved by this committee, to send it out.
I got a question, who's been looking at this, Andy Phillips or Rebecca?
Andy looked at it initially, and I do believe Rebecca has looked at it as well. I guess I'd let her answer that. She's still online.
Rebecca,
Yes.
what can you tell me about this, multi-dwelling development option 3?
Okay, so Andy did the initial assistance with the drafting and the preparation of those options. So I wasn't involved in that at all. Upon my return to Atolis, I picked it up at the point when there were questions about tax impacts and some other questions. So I helped Jay with those, but I really haven't had a whole lot of extensive involvement in this. With respect to Jay's question, or why this is coming back to the committee now, the fact that there is going to be, or there's anticipated to be, a change in the shoreline code, and that because that wasn't discussed in front of this committee before, that's the main reason that it's back now. And so I think that Jay did the right thing by bringing it back to the committee this time around. So even with that, Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions, even though I wasn't directly involved in the drafting of the 3 options. And certainly, if you have questions I can't answer, I can pull Andy in here. So.
Go ahead, Mr.
Chairman, Jay, so there's 2 edits, right? We changed pretty much, and now we're gonna send it back to the towns.
Yeah,
And
so the
they're
towns have
substantial.
I've never sent this to the towns yet because every time I'm getting ready to send it,
well, that's good.
Yeah, and it doesn't make any sense to send it out to the towns if that see the corrections that are needed, so then we have to send it back to the towns again. So at this point, I think this is the polished version that I want to send out to the towns, and there'd be, again, 2 additions to basically what is called option 3 version 4.2, and that would be the addition of, in all cases of the 2-family requirements for the zone district, to not only have section 18.2, but to also add and 18.3. So that occurs in 3 places within the R1, RR1, and RR2. And again, that's just meeting not only the area requirements of 20,000 square feet of RR1 and RR2, but also the width dimension of that. You must have at least 100 feet of width. If you're going to do 2-family, you need double those requirements. So 200 feet of width.
Yeah.
And to not have 18.3 in there would be problematic. So we need to get that in there. And then as Ms. Wilson alluded to me, as she perused the shoreline zoning ordinance, the requirements of only 1 habitable dwelling per structure is allowed per legal lot. Well, yes, that is the case, unless you were to be approved the authorization of the conditional use permit for multi-dwelling development. As the current ordinance would read right now, that again already is problematic, because if someone wants to open up a resort, and let's say they have 1,500 feet of frontage, and they want to open up a 7-unit resort, there's conflicting aspects of that if it's on shoreline right now. So regardless of how this ends up turning out, even if the towns deny this and we go back to the drawing board and try to get some kind of working version of this, there are still contradictions in the current ordinance. Changes need to be made one way or the other. I think the version that I have is the best solution to that, but I'm only one individual. If there are other solutions out there, that's great, but solutions still need to be made.
Jay, I had, in reading this, under multi-dwelling development, it says, regardless of form of ownership of 2 or more dwelling units, condominium, resort, hotel, blah, 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 blah. But then under the definition of resort, it says rental to the public of more than 2. So do those 271 and 85 conflict with one another? The definition of resort is more than 2, but then you have it as 2 or more in the multi-dwelling development?
I don't think so. The way I guess I would interpret that is that a multi-dwelling development, if you're going to operate it as a resort, the resort would be more than 2 still. So if you want to do a multi-dwelling development and you're going to have 2 units as part of that multi-dwelling development, you're still not a resort. You're still some other type of, you're still a multi-dwelling development in that you're having 2, but you don't meet the definitions of a resort. The resort would be for 2 or more. You're still a multi-dwelling development, but you're not a resort. As per
Maybe
the
the resort
requirements.
should be taken out of there then.
Rebecca, what's your opinion?
I don't think that it is inconsistent. However, it's certainly within the committee's discretion if you want to remove that. I think,
I don't know.
Go ahead.
Rebecca, are you finished?
yeah, I'm just looking at the language. I mean, even though and I see Ms. Wilson's point that because you have that definition of multi-dwelling as let me rephrase that. I can see where there would be a perceived contradiction, but I think given the specific definition of resort, I think it's okay the way that it's drafted. But again, it's certainly up to the committee whether you'd like to change that. One other comment I did have, just again in response to the general question, in terms of my thoughts on this, I certainly agree with Jay that changes need to be made. And I know there's been lots of discussion on what those changes are going to look like. But Jay's absolutely correct that there are inconsistencies in the code now. And I certainly encourage the committee to do something and then send this on to the towns.
So you believe, that, Jay, that with the changes you made here, now this is ready to go out to the towns?
Yes, I do, I guess, want to really sit down and read the information contained in the definitions of 71 and then 85.
Chair.
Go ahead.
So right now, because we've been talking about this probably for many, many months. Right now, we just want the opinion of the towns. There's still an ongoing discussion. We're just approving sending this version to the towns. So it's not that this is concrete. We just need the opinions of the towns to make our information and our voting better. So right now, we just need to get that information from the towns. We need to actually put forth that recommendation to send it to the towns so we can get the input from the towns. So that's what we're doing with this.
We still have to hold an official public hearing.
Correct. I'm just saying that we really just need to get the town's input as well, because they're not coming to the meetings. So we need to send this to them so they can read this, and then we can make more of an educated decision on what we do going forward.
Take your motion.
Yes.
We're not.
Ms. Wilson, do you have something to say?
Well, I think, Jay, in your letter, you asked the towns to say why you would approve or deny, because I wouldn't want somebody to deny it just because they didn't understand the language without.
Right. Anytime I send out a summary letter to the towns, I try to give them the information of how we got to this point. If they don't like how the language is read or interpreted, at least please give me your comments of what you don't like so I can change it. Because again, we have to change one way or the other because of the contradictions that we have in the current ordinance. And if it's just to, solidify what it says in one section versus the other section, then let's do that. But, I can't make and wave the magical wand as to how I want it read. This is what, we've started with. If this is not the route that the towns or other elected officials or general members of the public want it to be perceived as, then, let's have that information, get it out to the towns, get the responses back and make those changes. Because if we don't get 50% approval back from the towns, well, then we're not holding a public hearing, and we'll try to gauge those comments from the towns and make the necessary changes to get it to that point.
I'm not gonna recognize you guys back there because we're not in public hearing. This is just for the committee. I'm sorry.
But that's okay, I understand.
So go ahead, Mr.
Well,
Chairman.
I'll make a motion then that we send this polished copy to the towns that were discussed today and get their opinions.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to send this
Option 2.
to the towns for their approval.
Yeah.
It might actually change to 4.3 because we've had amendments now. I don't know. I'll confer with legal as to what it
It's
ultimately calls.
I'm calling it the polished.
Okay.
Pat, I want to do a roll call vote on this.
Yeah. Mr. Buckles,
Yes.
Ms. Hessel,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Mr. Mastery,
Yes.
So we'll send it out to the towns. We're gonna try to get it out today to the clerks so they can get it on their agendas for their planning commissions and their town boards, and we'll. If we get 50% approval back, which is at this point, I think the bigger if, then we will hold an official public hearing next month. If we don't get the 50% approval back, we'll dive into the comments and, information that the town send back. Whether or not we'll have another draft version available by then, probably not, but it'll at least give us some process to keep moving forward. We talk about how long ordinance amendments take. I mean, this is over a year now for this one. And, we also talk about some of the members of the public saying how much, money that some of this stuff costs. In the end, I mean, we need to make changes to this ordinance because there are, contradictions within it. And one of the reasons why, these ordinance amendments take so long to process is because of information that we hear from the general public. So
Well, that also.
that certainly does. It costs a lot of money from our general public. We have one other item here as part of new business, and that is for the consideration of to request to the county board and ultimately the chairman of the county board for the formation of an ad hoc committee for tourist rooming house. We had a little bit of information, I believe it was probably 3 months ago, where we with zoning as well as health and human services, more particularly the health department and Matt McKay to look into additional regulations for tourist rooming house. And in order to really kind of get all that information out there, we are requesting that we form an ad hoc committee and get multiple stakeholder groups involved. Some of the potential stakeholders that we've identified, again, this is with the health department, is at least 2 Sawyer County Board of Supervisors, a realtor, a property manager that's already doing short-term rental, potential resort owner, a septic pumper, because they are, seeing increased workloads with the tourist rooming house industry, a tourist rooming house neighbor, one that lives next to a tourist rooming house, someone that would be as part of the tourism board for Sawyer County or Hayward in general, potential law enforcement individuals or game wardens, some township members, and then Sawyer County zoning staff. So we've identified our stakeholders. I'm asking this committee to give a recommendation of approval to move this on to county board to form the ad hoc, and we will provide a list of potential candidates for those stakeholder groups. Go ahead, Ms. Hassel.
I'll make a motion to move forward with the ad hoc committee. I think there's a lot of other counties that are doing this. I think we're behind the 8 ball.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Hessel and a second by Ms. Wilson to approve sending the ad hoc committee to the county board. Now, from this committee, how many you need?
So right now, identified that we would want basically 2 members of Sawyer County supervisors, 1 member from this committee, 1 member from Health and Human Services. Stacy Hessel, Ms. Hessel has expressed interest. I have her on the short list. If there are any other members of this committee that are interested in serving on this ad hoc, you can certainly throw your name into the hat, but ultimately would need to be approved by county board. And we've also identified Chris Rusk from Health and Human Services to hopefully also be willing to serve on this ad hoc committee.
So Stacy, are you from this committee or from county board that you want to do?
I can do either one. I'm just interested because.
It's kind of both. We try to get, because we don't want 15, 17 people sitting on this ad hoc committee, because
We don't want to walk in.
How many people are you proposing to be on the committee?
we're looking around 9 to 11. I think that's a good working number. We want to keep it as an odd number. You know, I can certainly share this list. You know, the most important aspect was to get approval today of this committee to form the ad hoc, or at least a recommendation to form the ad hoc. And then really it was going to be Matt McKay and myself to develop a working list. We've thrown some feelers out for that as the individuals that may be interested in serving on that. I think we're at, if I do a short count here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We're right around 12 right now, not including county staff that have expressed interest. Now, I don't know if that 12 that we have as a short list recommends all the stakeholders that we want to have involved. But again, I would be hesitant having more than 13, especially because it's hard to accomplish goals when you have more people. But
I guess one of my questions, Jay, is when do you think these meetings would be held?
that would be something we'd have to ask the majority of this list if approved at county board. You know, it'd be anticipated that there'd be potentially, 10 meetings over the next 12 months. In conversations with Matt McKay, the purpose and the working goal of formation of this ad hoc committee is to look at and potentially draft additional regulation, whether that's in the form of ordinances or whether that's in the form of additional permitting. But that is the purpose and the end goal of the formation. In conversations with Matt McKay, he would like to have a goal accomplished by mid-April of next year.
Oh, okay.
So we're looking at approximately 10 meetings over the next 12 months, each meeting being approximately an hour to 2 hours.
They'd be held here.
Somewhere within the Sawyer County Courthouse, yeah.
So what, again, just for my info, how many you need from zoning?
I was looking at having 2 county board supervisors serve on this ad hoc committee, one from this committee, one from Health and Human Service Committee. Again, on the short list that I have right now working, Ms. Hessel has expressed interest, and we are trying to get Mr. Rusk of Health and Human Services to serve, in that we're trying to hit a couple birds with one stone, in that Chris Rusk, not only being on the Health and Human Service Committee, also county board supervisor, would also have an element of tribal representation.
Yeah, that's good. So I mean, if this Hessel doesn't want to do zoning, I would be in favor of doing it. But it's up to her, if she wants to go as a county board rep or zoning, I'm okay.
Yeah, I've talked to Mr. Schuman and I've talked to Ms. Wilson. They expressed that they would not have time because there's a lot of other committees that they already serve on.
Right.
So
Okay. I mean, you don't need to know right now, I guess, do you?
I don't.
Well, you need to forward it to the county board, yeah.
Right, I'm gonna have, by next month's county board, I'm gonna have to have a list ready to go basically to the chairman to approve that list. And I will, I guess, have a couple potentials and probably try to set up a meeting with Mr. Schuman as to, his input for that said committee.
Go ahead, Ms. Hessel.
Rebecca has her hand up. Is that
Rebecca and
okay?
Andy both have their hands raised as well.
Rebecca, go ahead.
Yeah, Andy, I don't know if Andy, you want to go first, because we may be duplicating comments, so.
Maybe, I think,
Why don't you go first?
yeah, Jay actually picked up what I was gonna bring up just here, just in the last few sentences, that we had the same motion go through the Health and Human Services Committee, since we're really looking, the most involvement with short-term rentals is public health and zoning. And so this is where this is coming from. So it's really not an ad hoc committee of one committee, it's an ad hoc committee of community interest as well as those 2 committees. So like Jay just said, as far as the composition of the ad hoc committee will be a recommendation to the board chair. And then that'll go to the county board for formation of the ad hoc committee.
Okay.
So you made a motion of recommendation?
Yes.
Did we get a second? And a
Yeah.
second, okay. So, and we do have a hand up. I don't know if you want to take information at this time.
No, we're done with information. And it's just, this is not public hearing, this is just for a committee, so.
Mr. Chairman, can I just say?
Go
one
ahead.
quick- Okay, The other thing I wanted to mention is, this is definitely a statewide issue. And we're seeing, other counties who have taken, legislative action and adopted ordinances. We already have one lawsuit, in one northern county, in which the Wisconsin Realtors Association is challenging, their ordinance. So certainly a statewide issue. And that being said, WCA is also looking at this. And so we've had discussions on how WCA can have involvement in this process too. And so we will certainly bring back, the work that WCA does for the benefit of Sawyer County, which is obviously not that on Sawyer County's dime. So I just wanted everybody to be aware of that it's certainly a collaborative effort with what's going on at WCA.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor to send the request for the ad hoc committee to the county board. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries to send it to the county board. All right, number C, any other business that may become before this committee? Okay, no more. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
And then